Hey, we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Vercel Community live stream. We are so excited to have you here. I'm Anshuman, and joining me is Jacob. We both are moderators for this session, and you have probably seen us around in the community answering questions or talking to you, having discussions. So it's always great opportunity to talk to you in live sessions and have our community customers and users together. It's awesome to see so many of you joining here us today. And please drop a message into the chat letting us know where you are tuning in from. And if this is your first time joining us in this live stream, make sure to sign in. And if you do not see a button for chat, you will have to go top of your page and you'll see a sign in button. You can use that to sign in with your Vercel account and then click on I am going into this event, and then you will unlock your chat. And for those of you who are joining us on X, you can come to community.vercel.com to join this live stream and ask questions live. Over to you, Jacob.
Yeah, thanks, Satyaman. So if you're going to hang out in the chat, just please remember to be respectful and follow our code of conduct. I'd like to introduce our guest today, Matt Collier, technical consultant here at Vercel. Hey, Matt, what do you have to show for us today?
Hey everyone. I'm a technical consultant, and my job at Vercel is to work with about up to 20 or so of our enterprise customers on all things Next.js, Vercel, and particularly at the moment V0, and getting the best productivity and optimizations for each of those products. So today I've been doing a little bit of work at Vercel around design systems and getting design systems into V0. And I just wanted to share a presentation, which is a bit about our thinking on design systems. I think V0 has got some really, really good plans for how we want to deal with design systems. But I just wanted to kind of lay the foundations to how we're thinking about it. And maybe a couple of weeks in the future, we'll have some exciting announcements for you. But yeah, I thought I'd just dig into design systems and LLMs and how they work together, and explain how we've been trying to technically work around that at Vercel. Cool. So let's get started. Just set up my screen. Cool. So why design systems are at odds with LLMs? So today I'm going to go through how design systems are constrained, maybe a little bit around the source of truth of design systems, talking through Vercel's thinking around primitives, prototypes, and production design systems, or component libraries, really. The Shadcn registry, which is kind of how we're looking to set up some of our design system and component library work, and MCP component libraries, problems to be solved, and some feedback. But first of all, I think we should get into what is V0 good at? Well, V0 is good at, the V0 model is trained on examples from Shadcn Components UI and Tailwind CSS. So it's really, really good at working in that environment. And it's great at building novel projects in that stack. But if you want your apps to be styled with consistency, or maybe in a new theme that you've come up with, that's when we found our users can get into a little bit more struggle to actually keep V0 using the same themes and styling. And then the other I think people want to do is they want to use their company's design system so they can communicate with their colleagues with all the basic visual rules and components that are already there and built for you. And you don't have to rebuild those for every single project you do. So if V0 is good at novel things, so if you have, this is a little photo booth app I built. It's a nice little design, fun little project, but it's kind of in a novel design system. There are going to be some awful photos that have been taken here, but so this is the good world of V0, and it will keep kind of the code consistent and the styling consistent in this. But it's kind of the Shadcn default theme. But what we want to do is be able to do your own thing, and the problem is that LLMs by nature are they're probabilistic, and that is the feature of them. They will give you a different result each time, and that kind of is their creativity. And design systems, they are deterministic. They are kind of constrained. That's you trying to have a similar or same output every single time. And that's what's at odds with each other. And there's various ways that people can try and constrain them and get them to do exactly what they want. But design systems is quite a core of that, because it's extremely easy to tell visually if something's a bit different. So yeah, and the way that we want to think about design systems is Lego blocks of useful code. I think everyone uses the phrase Lego blocks, but we want to be able to drop these proven, well-determined rules and component blocks into our code and be able to have the LLM magic kind of transform on the fly to decide where to put them. And that's what we've been looking at Vercel. And when I'm talking about design systems, I know we could be talking about, here's the Geist design system from Vercel. This is what more I'm talking about. So like it's more like your component library rather than something which is like here we've got Helly Hansen's brand, print, content, video design system. We're kind of talking mainly about our component library and the typical world that everybody knows of atoms, molecules, organisms, templates, and pages. This is kind of more what we're referring to when we're talking about design systems here. And the way that we kind of see them and the use cases at Vercel are we're calling kind of primitives, prototypes, and production component libraries. Or I might just use component libraries and design systems a bit interchangeably here, but I do mean kind of more component libraries. And with this, it's our primitives. What we're seeing is kind of like your lower level primitives, your colors, font, typography, spacing. Your prototype design system, we believe there's a use case which is kind of you don't need your full production design system, but you want it to look good enough. Here's my customer Cruise Critic with their kind of prototype design system, and then the screenshot below is their kind of production website, what it looks like. But it is enough to have the right colors and to trick the eye and to communicate what you've been talking about. And then you've got kind of your product level, your production level design system. And that's where you might have something like a storybook that goes into very good detail about each one of those components and all the different states of those components and the inputs. But yeah. So the way we see it is there's kind of these three levels. With primitives, it should be something that's pretty much instant to have set up. Prototype components should be a lot more. They're kind of like a fair amount of components, but they kind of use the primitives, build upon the primitives, but might use some of Shadcn's basic UI component blocks and form your existing components that you have into this Shadcnified prototype component. And then you've got a higher level, which is the production design system, which is a full-fledged, you're using the absolute best, the absolute prime version of your design system in V0 and looking to not only the design system itself, but all the governance with it, all of the kind of the business logic and stuff that makes that singular component work. So when I talk about use cases for design systems, I'm talking about designer who might have their design system in Figma, they're looking to pull it through to V0, they're PM prototyping new features, and they might just want to have a prototype design system that they can kind of express ideas or express interactivity to people. And then there's kind of the engineer who's looking for to build a consistent front-end production component library which people can consume, and not just one app, but multiple apps that a company might use. And at Vercel, what we believe there is kind of this difference between this kind of like prototype design system and this production design system. But the prototype design system is kind of immediately useful, and the production design system is something eventually useful, but quite a lot more work to get set up. And the engineer, but we want them still to be the prototype design systems to still be of very good quality and to be based in a reality that could be used in production. So for examples for the kind of primitives and how to set those up a little bit in Vercel and V0, we have some really cool new tools coming through with this. Like that, please keep watching the next couple of weeks. We just released design mode, and we think we've got some really interesting things that we're going to allow to do. But at the moment, in combination with design mode, we're kind of getting people to set up their own design systems just from like their primitives here. So if I use like a service like TweakCN, I can kind of, it's a really good service that enables you to very quickly theme Shadcn components. I can then kind of play with these component bits here. I can even kind of AI generate my own specific type of theme and apply that. And once I've kind of got the theme I want, I can take the code from that and I can use this code, copy it into V0 and start using it there. And that's one way of getting it in. But then we're also playing with we've also been playing with the ability to kind of auto generate your code. And if I look at your kind of primitive setup here, I can, I've got like an Airbnb system that I've made, and I can say, create a contact form. And this is basically applying your primitives to what V0 understands at the moment. So that's a global CSS file with your tokens in. And at the moment, because we're using Tailwind 3, we've got a Tailwind config file that applies those global CSS files to the Tailwind schema or library. But that's something that's going to change shortly with an upgrade to Tailwind 4 coming soon. But that's what I mean by like a primitive design system. It's just these few files that enables us to kind of break through that basic way of automatically opening projects in the right colors that you want to communicate about. So here we go. It's created a contact form. It's got the nice background. It's got the right highlights. It's got the right kind of primary color as the CTA here, and it gives us a nice contact form. And this is what I mean by like our primitive library that we can start getting people through. And we can generate one of these for you. But if you kind of get in touch with someone at Vercel, we can help you kind of help set up your company with this. But yeah, TweakCN is also a fantastic way of being able to get those and apply them to your account. Next, we have prototypes and a prototype design system. This is something that we're working on at Vercel, and what we want you to be able to do is to communicate as much as possible about we want you to build your own component library that you can use in V0 that can purvey the idea of what you're looking to do. Have the right colors, but also can maybe build on Shadcn. So you might have your own production design system that's written in a different CSS methodology, but this prototype design system is a Tailwind and Shadcn version of that. If I go back, I can go to Cruise Critic, and here we can see the Cruise Critic. We've been working with them. They've got like their kind of different components that blocks of code that they've put together, and they can use these to kind of fire them into their app and open them V0 and start playing around with them there. This is not exactly how their website looks like, but it's good enough to be able to put the idea over. And finally, we've got your, so with this, what they were doing is they were kind of building their registry within V0, and they were screenshotting their components, and it was converting it into a component registry for them. It's a rough idea. And then we've got the kind of production design system. And this is where you might have your like Geist of your storybook or something like that. But it might be like your full production design system that you're looking to use within V0. And this is where we still need to do some work on kind of getting this up and ready, but we've got some really good ways that we think we're going to be able to get this going in the future. So with that, so this is actually more like this. So your primitives, they're pretty much instant to bring across. Your prototype is a little bit longer, and then your production design system actually takes absolutely ages to do like a full migration in the current tools line by line. It can take quite a while for you to migrate to maybe like a Tailwind and Shadcn stack. And that's something that we're very conscious of, but we want for you to be able to use whatever production design system you have in V0 in the future. but we realized how long the migration could take there. So that's why I'm going to bring up how we kind of dealing with this, how we kind of prepping up the code and building upon our system to be able to allow you to build your own design systems and open them in V0. Well, we've got the many people know about Shadcn UI, which is kind of the component library that's blown up in the last couple of years. And what I'm going to introduce to you a bit more is the Shadcn registry, and that's basically how Shadcn builds his component libraries and makes it so that they are really easy to download and install into your application, but also how we're going about creating the right conditions to be able to use these components in the in V0 and in the kind of more agentic world that we're moving into. So Shadcn UI, I think we're all pretty familiar with it. Oh, lots of people are, but LLMs are particularly good at generating Shadcn components and using them. So if people don't know, then we can. This is the website ui.shadcn.com, and there's many different components that we can go through and select between. All it's based off Radix, and they are ARIA compliant. And they're a fantastic base default set of components that you can use in your app. And the big thing that made Shadcn famous was that you could, rather than kind of copying and having to paste and setting everything up, you could just copy to clipboard and paste this into your CLI, and you'd have that exact component added with all the right dependencies and put into your code base. And that's really good, and that's been a fantastic way. There's a site called registries, I think. Here we go, and this kind of lists quite a few of the kind of component libraries inspired by Shadcn that are now available for you to kind of mix and match and download loads of different components. So it's not just kind of just limited to the Shadcn UI components. And then what I want to talk about is the registries. So a Shadcn registry is the way Shad has gone about making it so that he has a set of components that are individual Lego blocks that can be kind of moved around the system or moved around various different code bases, kind of automatically copied and pasted and set up in a composable way to make them as malleable as possible throughout your various different projects that you want to use. And that's what we're going to go into a little bit more today. And what Shadcn registry essentially does, it creates an API out of your components. And to talk through that a little bit more, so every kind of component block that you have becomes a registry item. I'll show you what that means. So a registry item is just a JSON block of the file itself, but also some extra information which helps kind of enable you to kind of distribute that particular component block as easily as possible. For that, so let's give an example here. Here's the Shadcn login page, and we can kind of see the visual page and interact with it here. But then here is that page in API form. You can see it's just a .json file here, available on an API endpoint, and we can see that this is a registry type block. The description is a login page of a form and an image. That's very important, this description. It tells you exactly what it depends on. This particular component depends on the button, the card, the input, and the label components. These don't have to be Shadcn components. These could just be any kind of URL or other file that you want when you're kind of building this out. And then there's the files that are needed and the content that is needed, which is just a React component available to you here. But this is all you need to know really is that a registry item is like a very very token efficient, very concise way to describe a particular component and also how to distribute it. And then you have the registry item, and then you have the registry JSON. And the registry JSON is like the overall map of all of your components. If I go back to the Shadcn docs, Here we go. Here's a registry item. We've got the schema name title, but at the bottom here, we have the registry.json. And the registry.json is like it's a bit like your sitemap, or it's your overall kind of object that describes every single thing that's in your component library. And this is important for some things I'll show you later. But this is essentially how we know to convert all of our kind of UI components into this more complex registry items, and then be able to distribute them to the world. Cool. So if I go on a bit further, so this is the current kind of limitation of these Shadcn component, Shadcn registry, is that it requires Tailwind for your styling methodology. Tailwind does work much better with LLMs because of how it's kind of encapsulated in each one of your components. But the accuracy of generations using Tailwind is really, really good. And we'd like to kind of prove this in the future through evals. But in the future with the Shadcn registry and kind of creating an API out of your components, then we'd like it to work with all stacks, which is just kind of a current limitation of the way the registry is set up in the first place. But yeah, so now this API, this is our way of that. We've decided that should be a really, really good way to distribute your design system. If I've got an open URL, you could enable it not just to work in your code base, but with any kind of web app or any kind of anything crawling it. So it could be one of the any of the kind of agentic crawlers that you see these days and all the tools that you use. And that's where we're trying to get to at Vercel, is to be able to kind of unleash your design system, not just to be used within a code base and kind of put through that pipe, but also be used in many other places throughout different web apps, and kind of give it some freedom is how I describe it. Cool. So yeah, this is the registry.json, and this is just like that overall map of all the various different components that we have that you could then go into each individual one. So yeah, if I go back to this, which is how you distribute and consume your design systems, the way you would take stuff in, or you would kind of like take it in as a human, is maybe like an online guide like Frontify or Zero Height, and that's like usually quite image and text intense, or you'd make it into a storybook if you're a front-end engineer, and that's how you would have the instructions around what your components can do, or the variants, and all the various ways that you should be using that component, like along with some documentation. Or you could kind of distribute it in a NPM package, and that's where the easy way of kind of getting it into your code base, and then being able to use those specific components and use them throughout your code base. But for everything you want to use in the future, you don't want to have to maybe well, storybook, you still have to kind of like maybe copy and paste or understand how that's how those components are created. An NPM package, you don't really want to have to rely that every other thing that's going to consume your design system and component library is going to have to be able to install node modules and run that. So that's part of the reason of wanting it in like an API and easily distributable form, and that's why Shadcn components and Shadcn UI seem like partly so much success in what it can do. So that's why I want to bring you on to kind of the future of how we're thinking of with component libraries and V0, but LLMs in general. Is I know MCP, Model Context Protocol, is the big kind of vibe word of the moment, but it's in vogue. But MCPs, for people who don't know, are just a way for a protocol that enables agentic tools like OpenAI or OpenAI's ChatGPT or Claude Code and to interact with various APIs, and it provides a simple list of tools that those APIs can go through and know all of the rules and ways to use those tools, and get really effective accuracy of actually being able to use those tools. So what we're trying to do is apply MCP into the component world and with component UIs. So I'm going to demo to you a little bit about that. Shadcn has built this fantastic version of an Alpine registry. So this, what we're calling this registry here, is just like a hosted app that hosts your components kind of visually, but it's also hosting like the API behind them, like we saw earlier with Shad's two components there. So this is the equivalent of just hosting this, and in the background we've got like these API endpoints available of each one of these components. And what we want to be able to do there is we want to, oh, my banner goes away. What we've got here is for every Shadcn registry that you get built, you can then use the MCP version of it. So with a single build command, you can turn a Shadcn registry into a MCP compatible component library. And if you install it in Cursor, that's where you can start using it in Cursor, but hopefully for V0 in the future, we're going to be supporting component libraries via MCP. So what I've got here is my Cursor setup, and I have my MCP.json. I've kind of installed this component library. If I go back here, I've just got kind of my local host. This is just a basic page set up with a nav bar at the top. And if we look to the Alpine component registry here, I can see all these very nice, very kind of like production level components. These aren't just kind of like a prototype thing. These are like beautifully made, lovely components. And these are our Lego blocks. When we see them here, this is what we want to be able to start using in our design system, in our kind of V0 projects or any other Cursor projects that we want straight away. So I've got a nice example listing grid here, and I would like to take this example listing grid and I'd like to maybe use it in this page here. So what I'm going to do in Cursor is I'm just going to say, because I have set up this registry and kind of primed this new project with the Alpine registry, I can just say add the example listing grid to the home page, and we'll just let this run. So because I've made my component library into, which was an API, but I've made it into now that's available for tool calling via MCP. Cursor knows that it can add an item, and it's found the item and it's called it listing grid. And with that, it's managed to kind of use Shadcn CLI to add the listing grid. So that exact block of code, that exact deterministic Lego block, we've now been able to add into our project. And I believe Cursor is still working through that, but it should be done now. And if I go back to my code, boom. Okay, now we can see, oh, it's, sorry, the Next.js stuff is just from the basic project, but we can see a version of my exact listing grid, which is now available in my code base. So with the right fonts, with the right styling, with the right spacing, the exact listing grid is now kind of available in my code base. So if we want to add another one now, which is kind of like add, maybe like the contact form to homepage, I don't have to kind of add my component, or I'm not like kind of directly referencing it. I'm just, it knows that it's now got a kind of a list of components that it can prioritize and go through from my MCP component tools, and be able to call upon that to add to my my project. And while this is working in Cursor, this is what we're working towards in V0. So MCP UI within V0, being able to kind of call in these tools as you want. And this just, again, sets that deterministic Lego block for V0 and other tools to be able to use. Cool. And there we go at the bottom. There is the contact form just added in one block. So that's kind of the relationship between your hosted MCP server for your component library and your kind of actual project when you're looking to get stuff into code. So it's it's pretty cool just to see it kind of instantly come through like this. But we're hoping to get this working in v0 soon. So please look out for that. But that's exciting. Cool. There's a couple of bits here. Oh, so in making the MCP component library. So with the MCP component library, I've just kind of watched Andrej Karpathy's talk from Y Combinator that was only released yesterday. And his main point is that we now need to kind of build stuff for agents. And with the MCP library, it kind of just makes your Shadcn registry into this MCP server that any agent, not just v0, but any agent can consume. And that's really interesting. So because it's now consumable by any agent, I can not only go to cursor and that consumes it, but I can also add it as a MCP tools within just Claude Code's desktop app. So if I ask this to now, have a look at which components I have, it's calling the tools via MCP. It's then kind of looking at the API, those registry items that we made out of each of our components, and it's listing them for me and tells me exactly what I have access to. So this kind of React components won't particularly work in Claude Code Desktop. It just gives you a kind of a window into the future that any of these agentic tools can suddenly go from not knowing about my components at all to knowing about my design system and my component library pretty instantly. And this is the magic that we're working towards. That distribution, you don't have to have an npm package or anything like that. It's just open and available for different clients to consume. Cool. What we've got left. So yeah, so that's kind of like what we're building towards, which is like your component library for the agentic age. We realize that this isn't so much like the kind of designer or maybe kind of PM fast prototyping use case, but this is the we want your full production component library to work with v0, and from knowing how we're going to do that, we then want to be able to make something a little bit easier and more automatic to be able to enable you to build your primitives and your production and your prototype versions of your component libraries that you could one day migrate your whole production component library. So for this kind of version of this library that we've got at the moment, for them to work with the tools that we have, we want you to have kind of an AI native stack. So Tailwind is something. A Tailwind base is where we're concentrating on at the moment. It doesn't have to be Shadcn UI, but just something that is based on Tailwind. And that's something that performs super well with LLMs for that accuracy. We want your components as an API. So each one of your components is now distributable via any system. It's not within a code base or anything else. This isn't something that is kind of complicated to make. It's just a build command on your code base if you want it to be there. And then we want to host your component library and make it available as a MCP server that any of these tools can start consuming and using on their own. But yeah. That's about it for me. I did have a couple other things just to show you that I kind of went through slightly missed on my talk. But if you want to go and create your own version of this, we now have a Shadcn UI registry starter that you can just one-click deploy on Vercel. And we also, so this is the registry starter. It gets you kind of set up in the repo with your design tokens, whatever you want to add, and gives you some starter blocks that you can start building upon. But and the other thing that because we have this registry, because it's available via API, we can also start integrating that into our storybooks. So we have Open in v0 just available with your storybook, and you'll be able to open your storybook projects components within v0 itself to align to kind of your current way of working. But yeah, so there's a few things there to think about, and there's also some fantastic examples of a lot more complex components around the web. We've got this version here, which is by Supabase. This is a whole Supabase or authentication flow and kind of sign up flow that's all available via registry. That's all of these files that's kind of available via that API version, and you can just open these in V0. So these don't have to be kind of like simple components. They can be fully complex production level design system component blocks of component blocks of functionality that you can add to your projects as you want to. But yeah, there we go. But yeah, so that's a little bit there. But what I'm trying to get to is that we are working hard on making sure that from an engineering standpoint, that the support of design systems and component libraries in V0 is completely legitimate. And we're building up from there and we will soon come out with a few tools to make it very easy for you to build your own prototype version and production version of your design system and components and get them working on V0. So yeah, so thank you for bearing with me there and going through through all of this, but it's been great to talk to you, and yeah, cheers, thank you.
Oh, that was amazing, Matt. I think I really learned a lot about at least the Shadcn registry stuff, and also how MCP has been built into it now. And yeah, I think this was amazing. Uh, Instead of a live QA session today, like we always do, we'll turn this over into a async discussion, this time into the community event. So if you want to drop your questions or you have some thoughts, you can just go right below the page. You'll find the reply button. You can post your questions or thoughts, whatever you have in your mind. Also, do let us know how you're currently using your design system and what your thoughts are on the V0 and design system mode in terms of a design system. Are you using Shadcn right now, or are you using something else? Do let us know as we explore our journey to finding a perfect design system support with V0, right? Over to you, Jacob.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks everyone for coming to the chat and sharing some of your questions. Next week, instead of our usual community live stream, we'll be live streaming Vercel Ship, which is our one-day event for developers and business leaders live from New York City. That'll be next Wednesday on June 25th. So if you want to check that out, go to vercel.com/ship and register, and then you can come back here during the event, and we'll be hosting it here, so you can do the all the chat will take place here live in the community. So until then, we'll see you around, and keep hanging out, asking questions, and enjoy the community. Thanks so much, everyone.